I am 7,772 feet in elevation, and for tonight's dinner we're going to start with sloppy joes, and on the side of that we're going to have macaroni and cheese, and then mixed vegetables. So that's the menu for tonight, and we'll see how this works out. I've done sloppy joes before, and it's a wonderful thing to take camping. So we're setting up camp here, and one of our goals is to do most of our meals freeze-dried, because we didn't want to bring any ice or dry ice to go on this camp out, so the majority of our food is freeze-dried. And so we're going to show about maybe 5 meals or so that's all prepared with freeze-dried food. It might give you some ideas on what you can do on your next outing if you don't want to haul ice or dry ice with you to your next adventure. You know what I love about camping is improvising, like forgetting to bring the tea kettle to boil your water. So you have to make best with what you have. I'm just glad I have a metal bowl and not a plastic bowl. Now in this foil pack is zucchini and yellow squash that was freeze-dried. My wife went ahead and rehydrated it and put some butter in there, and so that's going to be our vegetables. And we have our boiling water. This is going to be for the macaroni and cheese, and the hot water here is going to be for the sloppy joes. Now in goes the pasta. Now this is not just any pasta. This is gluten-free pasta. Mmm, yummy. No, actually it's not too bad. And then the hot water here comes there. And then we have the sloppy joes. Mmm, yummy dryness. Oops, we don't want that in the mix. Okay. And this is what the hot water is for. It's for the sloppy joes, to rehydrate those. So we'll have to see how that goes. That looks like it's coming along pretty good. Okay, so our pasta's on for boil. We have sloppy joes rehydrating, and we have squashing. Now when you make macaroni and cheese, you have to add a little bit of milk and some butter and the cheese packet. Well, for the milk we have freeze-dried milk, because we don't have any real milk up here. So that's about an ounce. That's probably just enough milk right there to get this going. And that should soak up some of the water that's down in the bottom of the bowl. And once that's dissolved, and it's a good thing this is hot water, because the freeze-dried milk powder dissolves a lot better in hot water than cold. Then we add the butter and the cheese. And I feel raindrops on my back. It's been raining off and on up here. So hopefully I can get this done before it rains. Okay, that's done. Let's take a look at the sloppy joes. Now when I did the sloppy joes, I put a lot of extra water in here to rehydrate everything, and then I just kind of simmered the extra water out until it got to the consistency of what I want. So sloppy joes are done, macaroni and cheese is done. Let's take a look at our freeze-dried zucchini and yellow squash. And this is very, very hot. Okay, so this was all freeze-dried. Oh, that was way hot. Okay, so the zucchini came out really good and the yellow squash. So that's going to be dinner. We have zucchini and macaroni and cheese and sloppy joes. Okay, so I have the zucchini and yellow squash, macaroni and cheese, and sloppy joes. That's for tonight's dinner. Sloppy joe sandwich has always been one of my favorites, not only just to freeze dry, but to take on campouts. Pretty simple recipe. You just have to take 1 pound of ground beef and brown it, drain the oil, and then add 1 onion that's diced up. Cook the onion. Once the onions become caramelized, you can go ahead and add the tomato soup, the brown sugar, the mustard, Worcestershire sauce, salt, and pepper. Once everything is cooked, just throw it into a Harvest Right tray and go ahead and throw it in your freeze dryer, and you'll have a really good meal that's virtually ready to eat. The Campfire vegetables is a pretty simple procedure. Take any vegetables you want to cook and soak them in water for about 5 minutes. Then place the vegetables into aluminum foil with butter, salt, or pepper, or any seasoning of your choice, and wrap it up nice and tight. Place it on grills or a coal. Now the problem with placing this on a fire is sometimes fire is not a consistent heat source, where grills and coals are more consistent. But anyway, heat it up for 10 to 15 minutes and you'll know when your vegetables are done because you'll start seeing steam coming out of the aluminum foil seams. And when you see that, you're pretty much done. So we're going to continue our freeze-dried camping adventure. Last night we had rain, and then after the rain we had some more rain and thunder and lightning, so it was very interesting. So this morning things have kind of dried out, and for breakfast we're going to have pancakes, but not just any kind of pancakes, gluten-free pancakes. So this is a gluten-free Bisquick mix. Pretty good stuff. My wife is gluten-free, and so normally if it was just going to be me, like Krusty's or there's other pancake mixes that all you have to do is add water. But in this one we're going to double the recipe, so we need 2 cups of Bisquick. We need 2 cups of milk, and I have freeze-dried milk with us. We need vegetable oil we brought, and we've got some freeze-dried eggs. So I'm going to need 2 cups of freeze-dried milk and 2 eggs. So the best way to do the milk, freeze-dried milk does not dissolve well in water, especially right now. It's like about 50 degrees. The colder the water, the harder it is to dissolve. So I'm actually going to mix some, I'm going to boil some water or heat some water up to do the milk with. But anyway, we have pancakes and freeze-dried bacon, and that's going to be for breakfast. I have this bag of freeze-dried milk. This bag will make 1 quart. So I took half the amount out of this bag, which is going to be 2 ounces of freeze-dried milk, and that's by weight, not by volume. Then I have my hot water right here, so we're going to pour that in there, and we're going to whip this up. And this, if this was for drinking, I'd have to let this settle, but since it's for cooking, I don't care if it's hot, but it's going to mix a lot better being hot than being cold. So I have my 2 cups of milk, and this is whole milk. I sampled it. It tastes wonderful. And now I have to put in 2 eggs. I don't have a measuring spoon, but I think I can kind of guesstimate this. We need 2 tablespoons. Each egg is going to be about a tablespoon or so. And I think since eggs come in different sizes anyway, it's not a big deal. So there's 1 egg. And we're going to call that 2 eggs. And then I need 4 tablespoons of vegetable oil, which is the same thing as a 1/4 cup. Now, since my eggs were more like flaky eggs and weren't a true powder, 1 tablespoon of powdered eggs equals 1 egg with 2 tablespoons of water. So I added a little bit of extra egg because my eggs are more flaky than powdered. But I think the color looks right. And then the last ingredient is the 2 cups of the gluten-free Bisquick. My kingdom for a spatula. So after rehydrating some of the bacon in just a little bit of water, don't put too much water in your bacon because you don't want the water to wash away any of the flavor. After putting it in some water for a while, I then put it in some vegetable oil, and then I'm frying it up in a lot of vegetable oil because I want to kind of get some of that fat that was rendered out back into the bacon. And I tasted this, and it doesn't taste too bad, but it's not as good as, you know, fresh cut thick bacon. And so for the outdoors, this is just fine. I want to make a disclaimer. I was an actual Boy Scout, and I did not do the packing for this outing. Now, my wife and I came up a day early to reserve all the campgrounds for the rest of our kids and their families to follow us today. Well, I didn't do the packing. My wife did, and she wanted to have pancakes. So I have the pancake batter, okay. We have the bacon, but she forgot to bring a spatula. So I figure, but she did bring a pizza cutter and a big knife. So no spatula, so I'm thinking that between the knife and the pizza cutter, I can flip a pancake. So I think I might want to retitle this video to Freeze-Dried Cooking Without Utensils. So we'll see how it goes. How about that? Pizza cutter and knife as a spatula. Now, in all honesty, I did find a use for the pizza cutter spatula. Notice sometimes when your pizzas run together, this is the perfect invention for that. See, you can separate the 2 pancakes. I'm getting pretty good at this. So here we go. We have a freeze-dried, gluten-free breakfast for day 2. The Bisquick pancakes is one of the favorites at our house. Now you can do this with the good old regular Bisquick. Because my wife is gluten-free, we go the gluten-free route. But you can really not tell the difference between the two. But these are the instructions on the box. 1 cup Bisquick, 1 cup milk, 2 tablespoons oil, 1 egg. Now, if you want to go ahead and freeze dry this and have an instant meal for your storage or for campouts, then you need to freeze dry some milk and freeze dry some eggs. And once everything is powdered up, I have the freeze-dried version down here. You're going to need 1 ounce of freeze-dried milk by weight, not by volume, to make sure you get the proper consistency. And then 1 tablespoon of freeze-dried egg powder, Of course, you can't freeze dry the oil, so that will have to be added after the fact. And you can go ahead and add the Bisquick. But when you want to reconstitute everything, you need to add 1 1/4 cup of hot water. Go ahead and mix it up into a batter, pour it onto a grill, and you got pancakes. We're having Philly cheesesteak sandwiches for dinner. So I'm getting the water ready to reconstitute the beef. So I'm putting some garlic powder, some onion powder, salt and pepper in the water so that as the liquid gets pulled into the meat, it will give it some seasoning and make it taste much better. And we're going to bring this to a boil because the hot water will reconstitute meat and really anything freeze-dried a lot faster than cold water. Okay, the water is getting hot, but it's not yet boiling. But what we have beef, and this is raw beef. This was sliced and freeze-dried raw. So we're going to rehydrate it raw, and then we're going to cook it on a grill or in a pan. Okay, we got the hot water all ready for the vegetables. We're going to reconstitute peppers and onions. And we're just going to throw a dash of salt in there, just to give the vegetables just a little bit of flavor.
Thank you. You're just hungry?
These are our peppers. And onions.
I got cheesesteak last week.
There's a big horn in our kid right now.
Keep spilling bubbles all over me.
That's so nice. Grandma
So we'll let these reconstitute,
On the table.
What are you trying to see?
and we're almost ready to start frying meat.
Oh yeah, Charlie wants his chick.
Now, one of the problems with using freeze-dried raw beef that's been reconstituted
Blamed a lot.
is the beef looks like it's already cooked. So this is actually raw beef, but you can't tell the difference between this and what's been cooked because it looks like it has a medium cook already. So that's just one thing to consider when using freeze-dried raw beef.
Looks like Philly cheesesteak.
What's that?
Looks like Philly cheesesteak. You don't want me to put Cheese Whiz usually.
Serious?
That's like classic, but provolone is.
So here we go, Philly cheesesteak sandwich. And if you're from Philadelphia, please, no comments. But this is freeze-dried, or most of it's freeze-dried, I should say, but there we go. We really enjoyed the Philly cheesesteak sandwiches, and they may not be the absolute Philly cheesesteaks, but for our purpose on a camp out, that's what they were. And this is an easy freeze-dried recipe. I took a roast, sliced it really thin, and I freeze-dried it raw. And then I freeze-dried an onion, some red and green peppers, sliced, deseeded, freeze-dried the provolone cheese, and stuck that all into a storage bag to take up into the mountains. To rehydrate everything, we basically soaked the vegetables in hot water with a teaspoon of salt, and then we soaked the meat in some hot seasoned water, and I use some salt, pepper, onion, and garlic. That kind of makes the meat taste a little bit better. As the meat soaks up the water to rehydrate, it also takes that seasoning in and throughout the meat, and it makes it taste really good. Once the vegetables were reconstituted, we threw them on a grill first so they could be cooked and caramelized. Once that was done, we added the roast beef to the grill. Once everything was nice and hot, we added the provolone cheese or whatever cheese you might want to use. Once everything was melted, then we went ahead and stuck them into the hoagie rolls, and that was a really big hit also, and very easy to do. Sorry you guys had to miss breakfast, because I make breakfast like at 6 o'clock in the morning and everyone was still asleep, and I didn't want to make a lot of noise. But this was really good. This was quiche made out of freeze-dried eggs, freeze-dried ham, freeze-dried peppers, Bisquick, and water. This is a favorite Dutch oven recipe that we use on our camp outs, and I'll post it after this video. But this turned out really good. Although I probably overcooked it a little bit on the bottom. It's a little bit burnt, but the top was definitely better than the bottom of it. But it was really good. The Impossible Easy Ham and Swiss Pie is a dish that's basically a quiche. And you don't necessarily have to make it a ham quiche, but you can make any type of quiche you want. The recipe, and I can't remember if this came from the box of Bisquick or Betty Crocker, but this is the original recipe. If you want to convert this to a freeze-dried meal, then you just need to take some freeze-dried ham, freeze-dried Swiss cheese or any cheese that you want to, freeze-dried green onions, freeze-dried milk, and freeze-dried eggs. Now if you want to cook this in an oven, fine and dandy, 400 degrees for 35 to 40 minutes, and the best way to do it is to put it into a pie tin, and the instructions are thus. Now if you want to go with the Dutch oven route, you can place the pie tin inside the Dutch oven. If you don't have a pie plate to use, it's preferred to line your Dutch oven with parchment paper. If you don't have parchment paper, you can use aluminum foil, but spray both with a cooking spray. But parchment paper will work a lot better. You'll need to light 24 charcoal briquettes. 16 will go on the top in a checkerboard pattern. 8 will go underneath the Dutch oven in a circular pattern. Cook for 20 to 30 minutes or until a knife comes out clean. If you're going to be doing the Dutch oven option, you need to check it a couple of times just to make sure you're not going to burn the bottom. But to rehydrate all these freeze-dried ingredients, basically you're going to use 1 cup and 2 tablespoons of water. Also for breakfast, we have avocado toast. So this is freeze-dried avocado, and we're going to make it into a paste. Toast some bread, put the avocado on it, along with some salt and pepper. And I'm adding hot water to this because everything mixes so much better with hot water. So I'm going to let that sit for a while. And now I'm going to go make some toast over the fire. Okay, I got my toast off the campfire. And our avocado's already starting to oxidize here. And then we get some salt and pepper. Salt is not doing well here this morning. And then the pepper. And we have avocado toast. So what we have here, we have a piece of chicken tied to a long string. The string's probably about 15 feet. So we're going to take this and throw it out there and wait for the crayfish to come and grab onto it. And they're stubborn little suckers. They'll hang on to the meat as we pull the string in, and then we use a net, or in this case we use a colander to scoop them up. Let's see what we got. So here we go. So there's a crayfish we just caught. Okay, this little guy is a crayfish, and I have some freeze-dried shrimp, and we're gonna have that for dinner tonight, along with some crayfish. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the crayfish tail right here, and he has 5 little fins right here. And what we're going to do, we're going to grab the center fin right there, and we're just going to wiggle it back and forth, and we're going to pull out the intestinal tract just like that. We're going to throw that away, and then we're going to grab his body and his tail, and just like a lobster, we're just going to crack that open to get the tail out right there. And then
What's inside?
And then we're going to start at the back of the tail and just kind of pinch forward. And we're going to push the meat right out of the tail. So we end up with this little piece. It's like about the size of a marble piece of crayfish tail meat. And we're going to cook this along with our shrimp tonight. Okay, so these are the crayfish tails. They've been steamed with Old Bay seasoning, and they are absolutely delicious. Just like a little bite of lobster. So we're going to put this on some pasta along with some shrimp, and that's going to be part of dinner.